Yo, welcome back to the Four Wide Fantasy Football Podcast. We're back yet again. Episode 18. Episode 18, guys. Today we have a season recap, a playoff preview. The regular season is over. We're into wild card weekend. Speaking of wild beginnings, how about Cat Williams? My goodness.
How are we talking about
All lies will be exposed in 2024.
Bro, but you know what's amazing about that? He said he reads 3,000 books per year from the age of 8 to 12. That was amazing.
Okay, I think if you were to fact check Cat Williams from that interview, there's probably only two things that he said were lies. And that has to be one. There's no way that man reads 3,000 books a year. No way.
That's not
in
10 books a week.
languages. In different languages.
The other thing he said is that he ran a 4.47. No way. He also says he plays actually. Check him again. He also says he plays basketball regularly. Did you see him? That was not 4.47.
He was booking it though. He was booking.
He was. I saw that. He
With no
was.
shirt on. I've been following Cat since he played Money Mike. That man was not running no 4.47. He was not. He was like, I am a boy, Damon. You are not in prison anymore, Damon. Anyways, welcome back to the 4 Wide Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, as you can see, we are not 4 Wide today. We are trips left. Brother Will, with all the hair gel, is not with us this evening. He had some stuff to do for work. So tonight you'll get myself, Matt, Shed, and Olu. When Will's not with us, we go a little bit longer because we're a little bit unscripted. All right, but 1 minute of shine. Shed, you're up first, man.
All right, so my 1 minute shine is I feel like the Eagles are done. They're going to be one and done when it comes to the playoffs. They're 1-5 in their last 6 games, and I feel for the Eagles fan. Like, so I have a coworker. His name is Ben Berliner. I feel for this guy because we talk football every Monday, and for the last couple of weeks, he's been very disappointed. And the Eagles are just limping into the playoffs, right? And A.J. Brown suffered injury. Who knows what's that's going to be moving forward? But that's not looking good for them. And they've played so bad, you just can't flip the switch all of a sudden at this time of the year. You kind of are who you are at this point. So you know what? Losing their offensive and defensive coordinators from last year has shown to be an initial problem, bigger issues than we initially thought. And people have also said that the Eagles' defense has shown some quit in them. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but if that's the case, there's a lot more bigger problems because there's so much inconsistency, and I can see them being one and done when it comes to the game on Monday.
It's so obvious. Okay. The step that team took back, like their personnel got better, yet the team regressed. What happened? Coaching staff. You get rid of your offensive coordinator. You get rid of your defensive coordinator. You cannot expect the same results.
That's a lot to overcome.
It's a lot. It's a whole lot to overcome. Like I said, their personnel remain the same. Same receivers, same tight end, better running back, improved quarterback. I think it was the same offensive line, better defensive line when they added Jalen Carter. Their linebackers got exposed. Their DBs got exposed. Their coaching got exposed. I feel bad, man. The Eagles are exciting. They're just not going to go far in the playoffs.
Yeah, and to your point, when you lose both O coordinator, D coordinator, and also they also put in Matt Patricia on defense, right? Halfway through the year. So like they were trying anything. It wasn't working, and Patricia didn't do a better job. But
yeah, didn't they sign him? Didn't they ask him to be like a consultant for the defense or something like that? And then they made it. Get out of here. Anyways, Olu, your 1 minute of shine, man.
Yeah. So my 1 minute of shine is what is Mr. Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots? What is he waiting for? It's Black Monday already. It's a day after Black Monday, and Bill Belichick is still the coach of New England Patriots. What is it waiting for? Vrabel is available. He has a lot of teams he will be interviewing for very soon. So the longer it takes, the more that potential candidates are being taken up, unless Gerard Mayer is the one who's going to take over the reins. But as it stands, My question is, what is Belichick waiting for? Because ultimately, as reports said, the decision was made in Germany, and you guys know why that's so important. Decision being made to fire Belichick in Germany. Let's not talk of the years that he's had bad seasons after Brady left. The significance of him getting fired in Germany is this: we all know Robert Kraft. He's a Jewish heritage, and he's very big on anti-Semitism against the Jewish people. He's very big on that, like we all are. So now think about it. He was born during the years of Holocaust and how it affected Jewish people. Okay, so now fast forward months, years later, we have the NFL. The NFL is now getting into the German market, right? So now he brings his team there, and now he brings his team to Germany. Now you show, okay, let me win in Germany. Okay. But instead, Belichick loses a game in Germany. So I can almost think of what kind of personal effect that will have on Robert Kraft for you to lose in Germany. Meanwhile, Tom Brady excelled in Germany. So all that I think played into part him getting fired. Again, I know I'm getting to the psychoanalysis of someone I had no idea who he is. Nonetheless, we cannot skip past the importance of that. Every reporter said that even Robert Kraft, the report said he went into the locker room that day and spoke to the players and told them this game is a big one. It's an important one for me and my family, and we need to win this game. And they said he never does that ever to go speak to the players directly. He went to the locker room and gave them his own speech. And guess what? They lost. They lost. So that decision was made. So now, if the decision was already made weeks ago, what are we waiting for? We need a change. We need a change. We demand a change. Go Pats Nation.
I think the issue is, and this might just be my opinion, they might be caught in a stalemate. I don't think Bill
Yeah.
Belichick is a guy you could just fire. I think
Hmm.
he needs to walk away and resign. Now, obviously, he is not the best fit for the job. But again, that goes back to an argument I brought up weeks ago, is that there's not just, you don't find Mike Tomlins out there looking for a job. The best coaches currently usually have, you got to take a chance on a guy. Now, Vrabel is available, which could be an excellent fit. However, I don't know if a Belichick's a guy you could just outright fire.
But it's like all right. There's two ways to look at this. It's like anything in our lives, right? We have that one car we bought. We paid. We worked hard. We paid for your first car. You paid for it. You bought it, and it did its job. It took you to classes, took you to school, it took you to work, and you had it for years. There comes a point in time you need to pass with the car, right? And for me, mine was my wife had to say, "Yeah, it's time to go," and I was like, "No, I like this car." She had to really get rid of the car for me, and I think it's time that we get rid of Belichick at that time. And then if we go and transition to if we use the logic of Belichick, Belichick always get rid of his players.
Yeah.
We call a year or two too early, too soon than later. So it's okay to use that same logic with him. He got rid of if we can let Brady go, walk out the door, we can let anybody walk out the door.
Right, that's different. Let him walk out the door versus firing him.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
different.
Okay,
That's
then
different.
let's not fire him. Let him walk out.
And that's why I
Let
said I
him-
think they're caught in a stalemate.
Well, because clearly Belichick, he's not walking out. I mean, he's going to want. I think what you do is you go ahead and you make changes. You take away the GM position from him. You bring in a GM who he actually report to, who makes the decisions. Because Belichick's defense was still legit with injuries. He has great defense, and that's proven all throughout. So it's like, okay, we're feeling the offensive side of the ball. You find somebody who can run offense really well, and they have the second, no, third pick in this year's draft. Draft yourself a solid rookie quarterback. This is a good year for you to draft somebody. Bring in a young, good play caller. Didn't the Panthers fired what's his face? Who's like a good quarterback coach, right? I think I forgot the head coach
Frank,
they fired.
no,
Yeah,
yeah, we
Frank.
don't want him.
Yeah, Frank Wright. But point being is you go ahead and you hire somebody who can actually do the job because Belichick's defense is good, And or if Belichick can get like a serviceable guy, a Derek Carr, right? Somebody like that, Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he'll be a lot better moving forward.
Can I ask you a question? Do you
Shoot.
feel like the older you get in age, do you feel like you get better at like the rigor of coaching and watching practice? So it's just a question. Do you think the older you get into your 70s, is that because you either get better or you decline? Like you can't
You
stay
know,
the
we,
same.
we
Do you think you
it's
get better?
yeah, we all know the man has declined. We all know the man has declined. I think we could talk about that,
Okay.
but we do need to move on. We do need to move on. And
Yeah.
I'll just keep on simple. The one minute of shine is being a New York Giants fan is rough. Praise God for the offseason. Okay. If you're a fan of a failing organization like myself, the New York Football Giants, the season is rough. You start out optimistic, you start out hopeful, you start out excited. By week 4 or 5, you've realized it's another lost season. By week 7 or 8, you get apathetic. By week 12, week 13, week 14, you're still following, knowing you're going to lose. You want them to win, but deep down, you also want them to lose. And then when the season's over, you're like, thank God. And the Giants have the 6th pick of the draft. Yet again, we are in the top 10. How does this keep happening year in and year out? Failing organization. I love the offseason. Because now I get to focus on the draft. But anyways, we have an exciting episode for you guys today. Always an exciting episode. All of our segments are pretty much new today because the regular season is over, but the playoffs are upon us. Some of us get into playoff fantasy football. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to look back at the season. We're going to talk about your fantasy football league winner. This is somebody who was attainable by any manager. They were not a first-round pick. They were basically up for grabs for almost anyone to draft. After that, we're going to talk about fantasy football bust. A guy who was drafted in the first few rounds that you may have had aspirations of. High hopes for winning you a championship. They let you down. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about fantasy football in the playoffs. Our playoff prediction and Super Bowl pick. Playoff prediction and Super Bowl pick. But then also, we have a fun game. Over the season, we did single game mock for every single week. What we're going to do now is we're going to do a playoff best ball lineup. With that said, let's kick it off. Fantasy Football League winner, Shed, you're up first, man.
I feel like if you had Jordan Love and Brees Hall, they were surprisingly good, right?
Yes.
Remember, Brees Hall, he's coming off an ACL injury, right? And the Jets, and he's also coming off where the Jets signed Dalvin Cook. And remember, Dalvin Cook was legit when he was with the Vikings, right? He had over 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns a year before. So it was like, okay, this is the guy who was there, right? So, but then that really drove Brees stock down. But then what ended up happening was Brees stock ended up being the second best running back in fantasy football with nearly 1,600 total yards, 76 receptions, and 9 total touchdowns. 76 receptions, that's like tight end numbers right there for a running back. Another guy is Jordan Love, and he is a top 5, I think, quarterback this year. The man has taken them to a 6-2 records in the last 8 games and ended the season with the second most in touchdown passes and also the 7th most in passing yards. So don't be surprised. I'm not picking it, but don't be surprised if the Packers beat the Cowboys in this week's playoff game. I'm not going to bet on it, but that's I want to because the Packers are playing very well. So they're playing very well. Yes,
the Cowboys are playing. The Cowboys.
Well,
the Cowboys' ceiling, though. The Cowboys' ceiling is so high. That's tough, man.
It is, but they can be got. Anyway, it's a playoff. Anybody can.
That's my point. Nothing is chalk, right? So if we pick chalk throughout the playoffs, it's not going to happen. Somebody's going to upset somebody else. 2 or 3.
I love your Brees Hall league winner because I think it's so true. Because you got to remember the guy was coming off of a torn ACL. Okay, he was the first running back taken off the board 2 years ago. He was off to a great start 2 years ago, and as soon as he got hot, he tore his ACL.
Yep.
Now, fortunately, it was a relatively clean tear, so that he was able to come back by week 1. The only problem is, let's not forget the Jets had brought in late. What's his face? Cook,
Cook. Yep.
Dalvin Cook. And so I think honestly the Dalvin Cook signing was very overhyped at this point of his career. Because it's not even like Brees Hall was like splitting carries 50-50. But by the time fantasy playoffs came around, oh my gosh, Brees Hall was getting 15 targets a game, like 10 to 15 targets a game. He was rushing for 80 to 110 yards a game. He was getting touchdowns.
Yep.
I mean, he was winning people leagues. I won a league because of Brees Hall. He was a killer in the playoffs. He was absolutely a league winner. Actually, the league that I'm talking about that I won with Brees Hall, I actually had Jordan Love as well in my Superflex. So, yeah, those guys. And Jordan Love, you're right. He was a top quarterback because of all the injuries to all the other quarterbacks. So we didn't see Joe Burrow up there. We didn't see Justin Herbert up there. Jordan Love, he was balling. And in the fantasy football finals, what did he throw, like 4 touchdowns?
Yes.
In week 17?
Jordan Love ended up being in his final. Yeah, he threw 3 touchdowns for 256 yards, and he gave you about 28 to 30 fantasy points.
And each of these guys, Jordan Love was available to anybody. He was not drafted as a quarterback one. Brees Hall was maybe drafted in what rounds? Somewhere between rounds 3 and 6 is my guess. Anyway, he was up for grabs. Anyone could have had Brees Hall.
Sorry. Jordan Love, I'm just looking at it. He threw for 3 touchdowns and he rushed for 1. So he had 4 total touchdowns. Yeah, so he was killing it. He had, I think, 32 total touchdowns this year in his quote unquote rookie year.
Debut.
Right?
Debut. Yeah. Ola, who do you have? Who was your league winners?
Okay, so my league winner, my first one is Nico Collins. Nico Collins and Sam Laporta. So Nico Collins is one of those guys that was available to you much later in the round because people weren't thinking of him as like a top receiver type caliber because of his last 2 years with the Houstons, and we all know he didn't quite have a good quarterback to the ball. So this year was his breakout season. So he had 1,200 yards this year, 8 receptions, 8 touchdowns, and each week he was able to give you a good fantasy number. So if you had him on your roster, chances are you did quite well with him this year. And yeah, so he had a really big breakout season. Right now, going to 2024 season year, he's already starting to rank.
Oh yeah, his stock is up.
Yeah, he's already ranked the 9th receiver. So that was a good steal in this draft. And the other one is Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta has been doing so well. He's probably top 5 easy tight end right now. Top 5 tight end right now, if not top 3. He was a steal. He was one that, again, most people don't target a lot of rookies doing in the redraft leagues. So Sam Laporta was a good steal. Again, if you were in the championship games or you were in the semifinal, chances are you had Sam Laporta. So those are the biggest
Nico Collins, his stock's going to be way up next year. The Texans' trajectory is going up. It's only getting better. Nico Collins is a baller. Sam Laporta, in most leagues, he was a waiver wire pickup. And he broke the record for a rookie touchdown, or for touchdowns by a rookie for a tight end. And I think it's safe to say Sam Laporta is the Dynasty 1 tight end, or the tight end 1 for Dynasty football. And I believe he's a top 3 tight end in redraft as well, possibly number 1. I mean, the guy's he's killing it. Obviously, Kelsey's regressing. Mark Andrews was hurt, but I think he has surpassed Mark Andrews, what Mark Andrews could do. He's Sam Laporta's balling, man.
As much as I would love for Kelsey to actually regress, but I think the reality is his regression for his own level is actually someone else's career year,
Oh my gosh.
So
yes.
when people say Kelsey's regressing, I'm like, I will actually like him to regress for real,
Yeah, it's so funny how we say it, and you're right. I said Kelsey regressed, which is 100% true, but the man still had 93 catches, 984 yards, and 5 touchdowns. That's better than
that's most tight ends' career year.
95% of tight ends will never have 99% of tight ends will never have a year like that.
Right. That's how
Like
great he is.
that's what's crazy about that. And it was a down. Oh my gosh! And that's the least amount of yards he's gotten since 2015.
Yeah. You know what I
Chew
call
on
that?
that for a second.
I call that the Grunk effect. Because
The
when
Gronk
Grunt
effect.
had like 700 yards and 6, 7 touchdowns, is like, oh, he fell off. Like that's literally some people's career year.
Yeah, but I think the other thing that we can't forget about Kelsey, statistically he was lower, but he also missed week 1.
That's true.
Imagine had he played week 1, he would have broken 1,000 yards, probably gotten 100 catches on the year, because he was 93 catches, 984 yards. If he played week 1, he probably would have 100 catches and 1,000 yards.
I mean, it's part of it, though. I mean, should have played with one then.
Yeah, injuries are part of the game. Injuries are 100% part of the game. Right.
Yeah, so that's not. Yeah, that's not. That's hypothetical.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my league winners were honestly, and guys, listen, the Los Angeles Rams skill players. My goodness, you went into the fantasy draft thinking Cooper Kupp was the guy. You may have drafted Cameron Akers. The reality is, Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua were league winners. And I can almost guarantee you, Kyron Williams was not drafted in any redraft leagues. Puka Nacua, if he was drafted, it was maybe in the last round.
Yep.
Okay. Kyron Williams, and here's, and guys, I'll just be honest. I'll confess, I did not believe in Kyron Williams. I picked him up in a dynasty league and then traded him a week later because I was like, let me just trade him while his stock is high. Now, granted, I traded him for Jalen Warren, a future first round pick, and a future second round pick. So I like the return. But listen, Kyron Williams coming out of Notre Dame, undersized 2 years ago. Okay, so this is sophomore year, second year, coming out of Notre Dame, undersized, 5'9", 194 pounds. That's not that big for a running back. Honestly, a good running back is somewhere between 210 and 225. And to be honest, he wasn't that athletic either. Ran a 4.65. I mean, his comparison was, I mean, you look at playerprofiler.com, best comparison, James White. That's who he was compared to. In his running back class, he was ranked 58th out of 63. We haven't seen a running back rated this low coming into the league produce at this level. And what he did, what Kyron Williams did, he was a league winner. He had 228 rushes for 1,144 yards. That's 5 yards a carry. He also, and he had 15 total touchdowns, 21.3 fantasy points a game. That's second amongst all running backs. He was number 1 in snap share, number 4 in opportunity shares. In his productivity, he was number 3 in productivity. Like, as far as rushing goes, the guy, it's just incredible what he was able to do as some would say an unathletic running back. I have no clue what his ceiling is, but the man was a league winner down the stretch. Also, Puka Nacua, like, give him his flowers, man. Give the man his flowers. I mean, he what he just did, he broke records. He broke the rookie reception record and the rookie receiving yards record. As a rookie, he had 105 catches, 1,486 yards. That's ridiculous. His first year in the league. And the guy, like I said, he was available to anybody. What? 6'2", 210 pounds coming out of BYU? He was the 5th round pick. 5th round. So, I mean, like, it's like these guys, they balled out, man. They were league winners. If you got your hands on Puka Nacua in Dynasty, you're very lucky. You're smart.
And Kyron.
And Kyron, you got both of them, and that's why you made it to the finals. That's why you made it to the finals in that league, bro. Yeah, they were league winners, and I think Puka Nacua is gonna be. I think he's gonna be productive for a long time. Kyron, not sure, but he was a league winner.
Okay, I guess it begs the question. So are we? So are you really saying Yes, he broke the receiver record of yards. Hats off. Salute. Are you really saying touchdown doesn't matter? When
I
we
did not
when
say
we
touchdowns don't matter. The
when
man
we're
had
fact
6
looking
touchdowns on the season.
productivity, huh?
He had 6 touchdowns on the season.
Yeah, 5.
He had 6.
Okay, 6. 6 in 17 games.
That's fine.
Okay.
105 catches, 1,486 yards.
So
Olu,
do you see him every year? Okay, if you were to predict, what do you how over is it over or under 1,400 yards for him next year? What do you suspect?
I don't know. I'm not talking about
I
next year.
mean,
I'm
just
talking about he
knowing
was a league
football.
winner this year.
You
But
knowing
listen,
football.
Olu. He was 4th in receiving yards this year.
No, hats off. But knowing football, do you think he will hit the 1,400 mark next year?
Here's what I will say. Receivers that produce like this at this level their rookie year, it's usually not a fluke as far as their career path. When they produce at a high level their rookie year, it's usually telling that this is how their career could go. You don't see guys that get 1,400 yards then become just mid average receivers. Like
I can give you a name.
what 1,400 yards? Almost 1,500. He was
So
4th in the league in receiving yards. He was
okay, that's
8th in the
fair.
league in receptions. This is
So what
incredible.
I'm so what I'm asking you is this: Do you project he will hit 12, 1,400 next year again?
Let's just be honest. How many receivers can consistently hit 1,400 yards in
That's
general?
what I'm saying. Not a lot.
Right, but even oh wait, Shadow, we can't hear you, bro. I think you're on mute. Even if he gets 1,200, even if he gets 1,300, that's still incredible. But all I'm saying is he was a fantasy football league winner this year. He
Okay,
was incredible.
that's fact. I'm not gonna knock that. I'm not gonna knock that. But you then mentioned if you get him in dynasty, you're set. I don't think that's
Absolutely. Oh,
Okay, Olu,
100%.
true.
Olu. So let's say he gets 1,200 next year, but then he had 6 touchdowns. I can see him going to 9 touchdowns. 1,200, 9, 10 touchdowns. That's still a great
Yeah.
year.
If he gets 1,200, 9, 10 touchdowns, hats off. I'll give it up. Until
Oh,
then, it's still to me, it's still like, all right, I want to. So basically, Jay-Z, right, has in Jay-Z, one of his hip hop line, he has this line that says, "We don't believe you. You need more people." That's how I feel with Booker. I don't believe him. I need to see more.
I don't know why you need to see more. The guy is producing.
Olu,
I need
Olu,
to,
He,
Olu,
he
Olu, Olu, Olu,
he's
Olu,
he's
Olu.
a
Let me
Pro
cut you off.
Bowler.
so
Let me cut you off.
basically,
Let me cut you off. Let me cut you off.
you're trying to tell me I need to put him in the level of Jeremiah Chase, Justin Jefferson, Randy Moss. Is that what we're saying?
That is not what anybody said. That's what
No one
you are
said that.
saying.
No one
But
said that.
based on the rookie yardage, if you want to go simply by rookie yardage, that's what he's projecting to us.
He
Like
broke their
that's
records. He was a league winner. I did not say he is Randy Moss. I did
okay.
not say
All
that.
right.
I said he broke the rookie receiving record, and you are set if you have him. Okay. Now, hold on. I do want to deviate. If we could do
I
this
guess
for a
what does
minute,
set mean?
you're saying you need to see more. Tank Dell is your favorite receiver in the
Oh, you're
league,
breaking. I can't.
and the man played like 8 games, but you're convinced he is gold.
Who's this?
You said you're convinced Tank Dell is gold, and he only played in like 10 games. Puka Nakua was healthy all year and broke a rookie seat receiving record, yet you need to see more?
So okay, see, here's the reason why. Here's the reason why I believe he's gold. It's because not only was he putting up yardage, he was also putting up touchdown to match. And he literally, Tank Dell was literally on the same projection as Jeremiah Chase and Randy Moss. Like, no kidding. Like, if he kept playing like throughout the season, he was on pace for the same numbers as Moss. So he got caught career end. Okay, with him, if I have to give a grade, I would give him incomplete. That's the grade I'll give him. IMC, incomplete. In terms of Puka, I would give him for this season, I would give him A minus. I will give him an A minus for this season. Like I'm not gonna hate. I'll give him an A minus.
That is the fact that the rookie made the Pro Bowl as a rookie, and he broke the rookie record, and you're gonna give the man an A minus. That is hate. That's
Okay. So you know who made the Pro Bowl last year? I mean, in their rookie year, Mac Jones made the Pro Bowl in their
but he didn't have
rookie
this
year.
production though. You can say Mac Jones only won, but he didn't have this production. Mac Jones made it because somebody else was out. That's how Mac Jones made it in. He made it by default.
Puka
Yeah,
has the
Puka made it as a
production.
fourth stringer. Puka made it as a fourth string. Like there were three tight ends. There were three receivers ahead of him. So he wasn't
Right,
like
because the Pro Bowl roster consists of 4 wide receivers. That's
so
why
he's
he
fourth, so
Olu,
he's
Olu,
fourth on the
Olu.
depth chart.
You're disregarding 105 catches, 1,486 yards.
Okay, but here's another thing. Here's another caveat we guys need to put in place. When you play with Matt Stafford, right? Matt Stafford, we know this about him. He typically zeroes in on one player where the player gets crazy astronomical number. He's been that way his whole career. And then if you look at and then I promise you next year, next year, the Rams will never leave Puka as their number one receiver. They will get another receiver.
that's
Period.
fine.
And once they get a better, more talented receiver, that's going to affect Puka's number.
Puka put those number up with Cooper Cup in there, right? Cooper Cup had some big games.
Puka Cup was hurt all year. He's on one of my list of disappointing. Cooper Cup was disappointing this year. He was hurt a lot. So let's not
Okay,
say.
listen to this.
let's
Listen to
not
this.
use
Hold on.
Cooper Kupp.
Let me tell you something. Okay, this is nuts. Okay, I'm looking at Player Profiler right now. Running against zone versus man. Puka Nakua, total route wins 232. That's number 15 in the league. Route win rate 48.8%. Routes versus man. Okay, routes versus man. So against man coverage, 191 wins. Number 6 in the league. Win rate, or excuse me, yeah. Win rate versus, okay, no. How many routes he ran versus man? He ran 191 routes versus man coverage. That's number 6 in the league. Win rate was low. Target rate was highest. Now Tank Dell's routes versus man, number 5. Win rate, he was number 53 versus man coverage. He was number 53 in the league versus man coverage. So it's not like that guy was so much better than Tank Dell. I mean, Puka Nakua. Puka Nakua's win rate versus man coverage was number 49. It wasn't high. However, it was higher than Tank Dell, meaning he's better against man coverage than Tank Dell.
Number one. Here's number one. I actually don't know what your source is. That's number one.
Playerprofiler.com.
Okay, I don't even know what that is, to be honest. Number two, it's not like it's PFF or reputable sites.
That
So
is a
I can't-
reputable site.
So number two, I never mentioned Tank Dill's name. You brought him up, so I never compared him. I'm just saying, like, I didn't bring him up.
That's the guy who brought up Randy Moss and T.O. and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson.
Right. So those are all timers. I don't know why you're comparing him to Tank Dell. I didn't bring
Because
him up.
what you said was, I need to see more. Yet you've
I need to
crowned
see more.
Tank Dell as the next great thing, and we haven't seen nearly as much.
Yeah, I literally just gave him an incomplete grade. I mean, that means I need to see more. It's incomplete. That's
Well,
what
you
you
know whose
said.
season was complete? Puka Nakua's.
Yeah,
All right,
and that's great enough, and that's why I gave him an A minus. I don't understand you being so dominant in yardage, but for some reason you couldn't score a touch. I don't get. You have to explain that to me.
I can easily explain it because Kyron Williams had
Most top receivers who scored that much or that yards, they usually have a high touchdown attached to it.
No, that's not always true.
No, I'm not talking about Gary Wilson and those guys. I'm talking about legit guys. I'm talking about Jamar Chase, legit. If Jamar Chase is scoring touchdowns,
Justin Jefferson had 7 touchdowns.
when
His
He
rookie
did.
season. He had 1,400
season?
yards and 7 touchdowns.
Okay. Wait. You said this season?
His
rookie
season.
season.
His rookie season.
He had 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns.
Okay. So for Turner, so in that case, guess what? No, and guess what people did? Nobody put him as a top receiver by the second year. We all
Yes, they
just said,
did. Yes, they
no, we did
did.
not. No, we did not. because we said it was Jamar Chase's year. We said Jamar Chase was the top
Jamar
guy.
Chase was a rookie. Justin
Yeah,
Jefferson's second
and we
year.
already crowned him. We
What are
already
you
crowned
talking
Jamar
about?
Chase.
People were talking about Justin. He had a year like that. People were talking about him being an elite wide receiver. Olu.
Okay. All right.
All
You know
right.
what? You know what? Oh my gosh, Matt Shed. You guys know me. If he does not produce next year, oh my lord, you guys know. I'll leave it at that.
But
Let's move on. Fantasy football disappointments. Who was drafted in the first 2 rounds that did not live off of their draft up to their draft stock, and unfortunately probably lost you or cost you some games, possibly lost you the league, given their draft stock. Shed, you're up first.
all right, the first guy I'm looking at here is Najee Harris. There was a talk, and people were still thinking Najee was the same Najee, but I saw this coming. I said this early on in the year that last year he was in a timeshare with Jalen Warren, which was a very similar situation with Zeke and Pollard the year before. So I knew that he wouldn't be utilized as much. He only went over 100 yards one time last year, so it's not surprising to see this happening. And during the preseason last year, this year, Jalen Warren played. He was the third down back for every snap for the Steelers. So you kind of saw this progression coming. So, which conclusion? It's not surprised to see that the production went down on Najee and production for Jalen Warren went up. So, if you had him, you drafted him thinking that, okay, maybe there might be something there, but he didn't give you much as well. Second guy I'm looking at here is Devontae Adams. I mean, he was a really, really great guy, but he didn't live up to what he did the last previous years. In his 2 previous years, he averaged over 1,500 yards and 12, 13 touchdowns, which on about 175 targets within those years. But this past year, he still had his 175 targets this year, but that went from 1,500 yards to about 1,100 yards, and his touchdown went from 12, 13 touchdowns to 8 touchdowns. So he wasn't like, I'm not saying he was horrible. He was a bum. He wasn't quite top 10 wide receiver, yet he disappointed from what expectations were. He was a top tier wide receiver, but times he was really too inconsistent. And part of that was because Josh McDaniels, his inability to coach, and also bouncing back and forth between different quarterbacks as well too. And Jimmy Garoppolo just didn't live up to what he was supposed to be.
Yeah, it's interesting because Najee Harris, at the beginning of the season, in the middle of the season, he was just so bad. And it was obvious. Jalen Warren was outplaying him. But come fantasy playoffs, if you were lucky enough to make it to the playoffs with him on your roster, and you actually played him, you probably did well. But yeah, he did not do that. He did not do that great. I don't think Devontae Adams did not have a typical Devontae Adams season. Not the one we're used to. The Raiders, their offense just fell off.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that he wasn't. I think he was like wide receiver 11 or so. He wasn't bad, right? But he was wide receiver. He was wide receiver 2 or 3. It's kind of where we expect him to be at.
Yeah, especially like when you consider his numbers from last year. I mean, the guy went from he had the same. What's wild is he had the same amount of catches. He had 100 catches 2 years ago, but he had 103 this past year. Right. 2 years ago, he had 1,500 yards. This past year, he had 1,100. 2 years ago, he had 14 touchdowns. This past year, he had 8. So it's like the team just wasn't. Yeah, he didn't live up to. Still a good player.
Yeah,
still starting every week.
I feel like really evaluating most skilled players on the Steelers offense this year. It's almost not fair to do that because number one,
Raiders?
Huh?
Steelers or Raiders? Oh, you're talking about Najee. Okay, you're back to Najee. My bad. Keep going. My fault.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I feel like to really evaluate them fairly. I mean, to evaluate them this year is probably borderline unfair because they had a really bad O line, and everybody knows the QBs can throw. So what will happen? They what's it called? They load up the box, and it's really hard for them to run. Granted, Jalen was running through them. He has a different skill set, but the skill sets that Najee possesses is not like what Jalen does. Jalen's is breakaway, side to sideline. But so yes, I think it's unfair to really evaluate him fairly. And also, and to be fair, didn't he just go through 1,000? He got 1,000 yards, correct?
Yeah, he just broke 1,000 yards.
Yeah. So if we're gonna look at his stats, it still say 1,000 yards. And also because when Mitchell Rudolph jumped the lineup and opened up the offense a little more, he looked way better in the offense. So I would say, it doesn't matter when we're talking about redraft, but in terms of dynasty, I wouldn't go too crazy like, oh, I'm going to trade him off. Still, watch and see, or unless you
So
want to sell it high.
Well,
so
I
so
think. Oh, go ahead, Shed.
no, yeah, Olu, I'm gonna say so. I'm gonna push back Olu, and I'll say consider this: the Jets had a bad O line. They had horrible quarterback play too, but Brees Hall went off, right? And the difference between Najee and Brees Hall is that Najee, I'm looking at his stats right now, is that every year, what made him great fantasy wise was his receptions.
His catches. That's
Yeah,
big. His receptions.
every year he went from 94 to 53 to 38 this year.
That's
So
his targets. His targets you're talking about.
targets. Yes. Sorry, 74 to 41 to 29 receptions. That's like pedestrian, right? I mean, for a guy like this, and he had 0 receiving touchdowns this year. So like that impacts him. So he's going. Besides his rookie year, he's steadily going down. So like that's why I kind of question. I'm like, I don't know. Like I mean, with like Jalen there and he's declining.
Okay,
The other thing about Najee that we've got to remember, his efficiency is going down because he came into the league as an older running back with a lot of wear and tear, and he's getting even more. Jalen Warren, and Will would probably say this if Will was on, because Will's a big proponent of this. He thinks the Steelers are reminiscent of what the Chargers had when they had Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler. And it's almost as if Najee has the draft stock, but Warren has the efficiency. And we're seeing Warren get more opportunities going. We saw Warren getting many opportunities.
so
I think
I will
that's
say this. I'm looking at the stats now. So let's just put it this way, right? He's averaged 1,000 yards every year, and he's averaged 7 touchdowns every single year. So in terms of rushing, the stats shows he's been consistent. And then when we go to the passing, he is averaging 77.7 percentage catch percentage. That's higher. That's if you're a receiver and you're averaging a 77.7, you're elite. Because most
that's a
receivers,
catch percentage. That's not the amount of catches he's gotten. He only had
yeah, and that's
29
what I'm saying.
catches.
So, but that's not a function of him. It's a function of the quarterback not getting him the ball. If he was getting the ball, it shows whenever you get him the ball, he does what he needs to do, but he's not getting the ball. So what I'm saying is, once he now gets a good receiver, a good what's it called, a good quarterback to get him the ball, he will catch the ball and make magic happen. So that's what I'm saying. Like, yes, if fantasy wise, he's not winning us leagues every year, every day, or whatever. But when we look at the numbers and we look at the full story, we're like, okay, it's not him necessarily. It's not him. Like his numbers are the same. Any regular if a typical running back had if a typical running back had 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns, that's a great year for that running back.
No,
Right?
you're right. He's getting the volume. The thing about him is he's getting the volume when it comes to opportunity. So he had his snap share though. It was literally 50-50. 52.3% snap share. But
Okay.
his carries, 255 carries. So he was number 6 in the league in carries, yet he was number 28 in the snap share. So what does that bring up? The question of his efficiency. Now, you would look at the stat sheet and it would say he averaged 4.06 yards a carry, but his true yards per carry were 3.9. That's number 35 in the league. So his efficiency is going down. Yes, the numbers were there. But him as a player, I think that's why Jalen Warren has gotten a little bit more run as of late.
And Olu, I'll add this. Like I see what you're saying with the quarterback play, right? Because that's going to really boost the entire team. The only thing I would just question is because it's just because Jalen Warren's there. If Warren wasn't there, then I would say yes, right? Because Warren last year averaged 4.9 yards per carry. Najee averaged 3.8, so it was a yard difference per carry. Warren averaged 5.26 yards per carry this year. Najee averaged 4. So Najee's going this way, Warren's going this way. And when you have a guy who's producing more, it just makes it harder for that guy to be the man. So like,
All right, can I ask you
Yeah.
guys a question? Did James Cook have a good year?
I think
yeah,
overall
yeah,
he did.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was good.
Najee Harris' number is better than his in terms
Yeah, I
of
think James Cook.
He had 1,000 yards, 1,100. Najee had 1,030. He had I mean, he's about to. He has 2 touchdowns. Najee Harry has 8.
How
You know
about
what
the
I'm saying?
receiving though?
So let's see the receiving. Receiving. Let me see for Cooks.
Yeah, so you're having 107 yard receiving versus 445 yards receiving, right? And you're having 4 receiving touchdowns versus 0 receiving touchdowns.
Okay, so 4 receiving touchdown, it still amounts to 6 total touchdown versus 8. And this is with a extremely horrible quarterback play, while James Cook had elite quarterback play. You see what I'm saying? So yes, okay, yeah, but we have to really compare the circumstance.
Yeah, and you also have to look at too is that his yards per catch was 5 for Harris and it was for 10 yards for James Cook. So like just that production, just that explosion is just different. And again, if there was no Najee, then maybe you could see something more, right? Possibly, but because Najee is there and he's producing, so now if James Cook gets somebody who's also producing, maybe his numbers go down, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
But
see,
mean,
the thing was, though, the other thing we got to remember is the Bills, they didn't start the season thinking James Cook would be a bell cow running back. They
but
brought,
he started off by the second game, they knew right away.
no. It was when they fired Ken Dorsey that they invested more in James Cook.
I don't know that.
Initially, because they brought in Damian Harris for a reason. But James Cook, you're right though. He wasn't at the end of the season. The numbers were the same. Najee. This is what will be interesting. This is what will be interesting. Will the Pittsburgh Steelers pick up Najee Harris's 5th-year option? That will be telling because they got to
They
make
have
that decision this offseason.
like for you, like if you let think about it, if you let Najee Harris walk out the building, yo, do you know how fast someone like the Chiefs or whatever will pick him up? Again, we're talking about James Cook. James Cook has the offense is spread out. There's still the threat of Stephen Diggs, the threat of Kincaid, the threat of what's his name? Of Josh Allen, the threat of Gabe Davis. There's a lot of weapons you was afraid of in that offense. Josh Allen alone, you need coverage, you need spies, you need so that open up lanes all over the place. Now for you to still have so if he catches and go 10 yards and Najee Harris, like nobody's afraid of anything with people were playing them cover zeros. No one is afraid. Yes, Pickens, we're afraid of him, but who's gonna get him the ball? No one is afraid of, you know, Pickett getting, killing you downfield. No one is. But with the Buffalo Bills, yes, you have plenty to be afraid of. So that plays a huge factor. And if you want to let Najee Harris go and he goes to a division opponent or something, yeah, I don't think you want to do that if I was them.
Yeah, I honestly, if I'm a GM, I'd let him walk. To be honest,
Oh,
I would.
okay.
I would let Najee walk, and it's not because I'm trying to defend a point, but I mean Jalen Warren's more efficient. I
They
mean
didn't they didn't
Jalen
let Saquon walk.
who
They didn't let Saquon walk.
they should have, but they gave him a 1-year deal. It's
yeah.
a franchise tag, a 1-year deal. Maybe they'll give Najee a franchise tag. I'd let him walk. To be honest, I mean Jalen Warren is a more efficient running back. When it comes to true yards per carry, he's number 6 in the league with 5.0 true yards per carry. Whereas Najee Harris is number 35 with true yards per carry. So I would invest more in Jalen Warren And obviously, we see in the draft, you could find guys. You could find guys in the draft. And I think Najee Harris has been all right for them, but I don't know. But we've got to keep it moving. We've got to keep it moving. Disappointments. Disappointments. Olu, you're up, man.
All right, my disappointment. My first was Eckler, and then Eckler and who do I have next? And Cooper Cup. So when the draft started, the redraft, like in most, if not all, most leagues, everyone was so excited to pick up Eckler and Cooper Cup. People were ready, like, when the song comes on ESPN, dun 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 dun, you know that song? People were like, yeah, I'm getting them quick, you know. They thought Eckler was gonna find his way into the end zone like usual. You know, Eckler gives you double digit touchdown. Not this year. He was so disappointed. No, not just him. The whole Chargers offense was absolutely
Except
disappointing.
Keenan Allen.
Yeah, he was. Keenan Allen, which I expected, to be honest, given the coordinator they have. Yes, Keenan Allen hit a different gear that he has never hit in his career. But I still think Mike Evans is better, but that's another story. So anyway, so he hit a different gear that he has never hit before. But for some reason, this run game was nowhere to be found. The quarterback, other than Keenan Allen, was really nowhere to be found. Quentin Johnson, the rookie, the first overall rookie, which I think that's a mistake, to be honest. He shouldn't have been the first receiver picked from the draft. He was absolutely MIA. Like there was a
Second
face
receiver.
all
Second
over mute.
receiver. It's still too high. Yeah.
Huh?
He was second. He was drafted after JSN, but still too high.
Yes, it was okay. Okay, his face was all over mid cottons everywhere in America. So it was just a very lackluster offense, or just the whole team. Well, like you said, except Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen had a terrific year. So Eckler was very very disappointing for fantasy managers, and we have Cooper Cup as well. Again, I think Cooper Cup really just reverted back to who he actually is. He had a great year 3 years ago. That was an anomaly. Okay, that was an anomaly for any player in NFL history. He had a triple crown. No one is doing that again, especially Cooper Cup. Cooper Cup wasn't a guy that would, he wasn't a guy that would give you like 1,500 yards or, double digits, lead the league in touchdown. But he was that one year. The stars aligned for them that year. So people say, yeah, Cooper Cup, even though last year he didn't do it, but for some reason, everyone's holding on to that to two, how many years now? 2 years ago, when last year wasn't that way. So now he reverted back to what he was. And on top of that, he got injured, which is typically his story. He got injured like around the season. Yes, granted, for 75% of game he played while not being injured, he did do very well. He did. Let's get the man his props. He did well. But like we said, injuries are part of it. And he was injured. So that
Yeah.
really hurt a lot of people's roster.
Austin Eckler was just bad. He was just
He was
bad.
just bad. I mean,
The drop-
again, I
and-
don't want
and-
to say it's bad. He just wasn't good this year.
well, he was gimpy. He was number 21 in fantasy points per game at 13.2. But given his draft stock, he was a top 5 pick in most formats of fantasy football, especially PPR.
Oh
He
yeah.
was top 5 pick. I picked him at number 3 in one of my leagues, and he was just bad. 628 yards. That's off of 179 attempts. That's 3.5 per carry. As far as yards per carry, lowest. Rush yards in a season, lowest. Receptions, lowest. Receiving yards, lowest in the last 3 years. I mean, the guy, he just was not good. As far as in 2021, he was number 1 for fantasy points per game for running backs. 2022, he was number 2 for fantasy points for running backs. But this year, he was number 21. The regression, it's hit, man. And it's interesting to see what's going to happen because I think this is a contract year. He was a disappointment. Absolutely. And Cooper Kupp, what's so interesting is in most formats, he was still a first-round pick with a red flag because he was drafted with a hamstring injury. And so I think many of us expected him to come back to those efficiency numbers where in 2021, yeah, triple crown, but also number one in fantasy points per game for receivers at 25.9. Now, last year he got injured, but don't forget he was still at 22.4 fantasy points per game. He was still number one when it came to points per game as a receiver, but this year, not the same story. Number 23 at 13.7 fantasy points per game. He was definitely a disappointment given his draft stock. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's sad to see just his progression or his lack of progression, how much he's fallen. Like he was the man. I mean, everyone was like, people had him. He was one of those guys where you're like, okay, he doesn't have the big name and but every year he would just pump out touchdowns left and right. And then he became the guy. But just the last couple of years, like I think the Chargers, that's why the Chargers didn't give him a new deal, right? So this year he could possibly watch, and I think they're realizing, the Chargers are, that they're not winning with him there, right? So like changes need to happen. If you have a guy there, I mean, granted, too, a lot of that is Justin Herbert, but I think they're gonna throw the blame on coaching on everybody else, and he's just not producing. So it's gonna give him opportunity to start over and go ahead and get a different running back. Or if they keep him, they won't keep him for it. Won't be expensive. He'll be on the cheap.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to move on. My fantasy football disappointment, and I'm gonna if you kept receipts on episode 1, I said my bold take was that Bijan Robinson would finish the year as the running back 1 in fantasy football. I was wrong, and I was wrong because of a man named Arthur Smith, who is now currently unemployed.
I
Arthur
told
Smith.
you.
Arthur Smith did all Falcons fans and Falcons fantasy managers dirty. The numbers don't make sense. Guys, Tyler Algier's rookie year, he had 1,035 yards. Bijan Robinson's rookie year, he had 976 yards.
Ooh.
In what world does Tyler Algier outperform Bijan Robinson his rookie season? Bijan Robinson, when it comes to player profile, prospect profile, was the highest rating running back to come out since 2018 when Saquon Barkley came out. It just doesn't make sense. And the man, as far as efficiency goes, he was rather efficient. But I mean, the opportunity. In what world do you give someone who you invest he was a top 10 pick, wasn't he? Why is the snap share 68.3%? Why is he number 9 in snap share? When you when you get these guys and you invest in them high, you give them carries. Zeke Elliott got the carries. Saquon got the carries. Fournette got the carries. When you draft a guy this high, you give him the rock.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to run him into the dirt. Najee Harris, they drafted him high, give him the rock. Like, this is what's supposed to happen. And for some reason, they didn't do it. One league I'm in, I took Bijan Robinson in the first round. Heck yeah, I did. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. He was a disappointment, man. It has nothing to do with his talent. The guy's talented. It has nothing to do with that one game where he was sick and only took one snap. It just doesn't make sense. He was a disappointment as far as his fantasy football production.
I remember when we first started the first episode, you said BJ Robinson would be a number 1 running back. And
Absolutely, I did.
Yeah, and I absolutely disagreed. I disagreed because he's a rookie running back, and I've always said, and sure you remember this, I told you this too. Gibbs was better in college than Bijan Robinson was. I watched both of them, and I like Gibbs better. I like what he produced, what he provided, and that's not saying Bijan is a scrub. And Gibbs did that in the SEC with better defenses. Again, I'm not saying Bijan is a bomb or whatever. He was just a product of where he landed. So that was the biggest reason for me, is he landed in a place where think about this, guys. The coach, his guy is Derrick Henry. He's used to a big bruiser. That's it. That's all he knows. Now he's used to a tank. Now you give him a Ferrari. He doesn't know what to do with that. You know what I'm saying? Or
Well,
or BMW rather.
Bijan's not small. I mean, he's 215
No.
pounds.
Right. That's what I'm saying. BMW. So yes, he's a big body that can maneuver. I mean, he's not big, but he's a 3 down back that can maneuver like a scat back. So that's what he is. He can juke you.
No, not a scat back.
No, he has the ability to juke you off your shoes. He has that.
But he's also got power, though.
That's what I'm saying. He's a 3 down back that can juke you like that.
Yes.
And hence a BMW. Anyway, so so my point is, however, the driver of the car is not very good, which is Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith got a job off of Derrick Henry's back. He's not very good as a good play caller. He just isn't. You know, anybody could call play with Derrick Henry, like running down the middle. That's it. Play action.
Yeah,
So
I'm sorry. Keep going.
no. So I just think it's unfortunate for Bijan. It's not, and this is not a knock on his skill set. It's really a knock on where he landed. Just like Cal Pitt, just like London, they're just wasting away in Atlanta because of the coach.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs definitely outperformed Bijan Robinson. 100%. He outperformed Bijan Robinson. He was a league winner. I do agree with you. I think it does have to do with his landing spot, given the Detroit Lions offensive line, given the philosophy of Detroit and how high powered they are. But, dude, I mean, like, Bijan Robinson at Texas, his last year at Texas, he had 1,580 yards. That's insanity. He averaged 6.1 a carry. He had 18 rushing touchdowns. And then he had 314 yards through the air and 2 more touchdowns. So he had 20 touchdowns and 1,900 yards.
Yeah, but who was? It's not like he was doing it against the SEC. Come on now.
No, he wasn't doing it against the SEC. But okay, Jahmyr Gibbs did well too, though. Jahmyr Gibbs rushed for 926 yards.
Against Georgia. He did against Georgia, Ole Miss. Come on, he did against SEC teams.
Right. No, you're right about that. He wasn't playing against SEC defenses, but you would think with his metrics, with his profile, with his numbers, with his draft stock, it didn't make sense to me, honestly. And Olu, you're right in this one. It's. Anyways, let's just keep it moving.
Real quick. I'm looking at the stats, right? So Bijan, on most teams that played, he was going off 100, 188, 103, 101, 130, da. He played Alabama. He got 57 yards.
Alabama's tough.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna move on. We're gonna take a break from fantasy football. We're gonna talk more so real life football, guys. We're gonna have to keep this one brief. But this segment is all about our playoff predictions. So ultimately, what we're gonna do is what matchup are we looking forward to most in Wildcard Weekend and why, and then also who's your Super Bowl pick at this point. Playoffs hasn't started yet. Who's your Super Bowl pick? So guys, we're gonna have to keep this relatively quick. Shed, you're up first, man.
So yeah, I'll just say I'm looking forward to the Eagles and the Bucks, right? Like I said before, the Eagles are going down. The Bucks have won, I believe, the last 4 out of 6 games, is where they're at here. And the Eagles have the second worst pass defense. They're coming in hobbled. So I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen with that. Baker Mayfield has played pretty well this year. Rashad White is doing well for them. So the odds are trending that the Eagles are going to be one and done. But this makes for an intriguing matchup just because you just don't know, right? The Bucks aren't super dominant, but the Eagles are on a downward spiral. So looking forward to that game as this is must-watch TV. The other game I'm looking forward for, or I would say then my Super Bowl prediction is I have in the NFC matchup, I have the Cowboys and the 49ers because I feel like the Cowboys are dominant at home. That's going to ride them into the NFC Championship game for the first time in, I think, 28 years. And the 49ers are just a well-oiled machine, right? And then in the AFC, I have the Chiefs and the Ravens. No one is really dominant in the AFC, right? So I'm going to go with the defending champs, and they've gotten there before. So we'll go Chiefs, Ravens, and I have The Ravens and the 49ers in the Super Bowl, with the 49ers winning this time around, licking their wound from last time. Shanahan making that change, having a healthy team, and Brock Purdy will bounce back from the Week 16 loss.
Yeah.
Keep receipts. Keep receipts. Olu, how about
Yeah.
you?
So for me, my prediction is, again, like everybody, Ravens versus 49ers. I would like the Ravens to win. I would love for Lamar to be a Super Bowl champion, but he is going to be a Super Bowl champion.
Come on now.
But I do feel like 49ers, one of the best things that could ever happen to them was the blowout against the Ravens, because now they see Lamar. Now they can see what he can do. Now they're going to come up with a better game plan. However, I think that's really hard to prepare for. Anyway, my favorite matchup this weekend is the Texans versus the Browns. And I'm really intrigued by this matchup because, for one specific reason, it's just I love the ability to shock the world. You guys know that. That's one of my favorite phrases, shock the world. And I think Texas are in a prime position to shock the world. We know about the Browns defense. We know what they are. They've beaten the Ravens. They've beaten San Francisco. They even have beaten Texans before. But guess what? When they beat Texas, I don't think CJ played, or somebody. They weren't a fully loaded team. Yes, granted, Tank Dell is not there now, but I think this is the playoffs. They weren't supposed to be here. They're playing with house money. Okay, you have a rookie coach who's that success in the league before. You have a rookie quarterback who's been in the big games before. This dude went against Alabama without his top players. Georgia. And he transformed it. Different play against Georgia. Matt, you saw that.
I did.
He
It was great.
shredded
He
Georgia. And
was
Georgia
incredible.
has one of the best defense. I
He was
think you're
nearly
going to
perfect.
see the same CJ Strauss take it to another level. And I'm here for it. I can't wait to see it. And also the Browns offense, we don't know if Amari Cooper will be available to play that day. We surely know Elijah Moore is out. Like, I don't know. I think he's out. It's safe to say, because he had a really bad head injury or something. Anyway, so they won't be playing with a full deck of cards either. And I just really think CJ Strauss would take the game to another level. Like, I can't wait to see this. Like, I'm ready for shock. I didn't get a t-shirt that says "Shock the World."
Yeah.
I'm ready
Yeah.
for that.
I think if the Texans win, it wouldn't be surprising, though.
Right.
I mean, because you're right. I think you're right, Olu. They shouldn't be here, but the Browns shouldn't be here either, if you think about it. Like, the Browns have no business in the playoffs. They're on a fourth string quarterback, a backup running back. Like, they shouldn't be here either. But I hope the Texans win. They're the better team, man. Each of those teams is hot. My matchup, oh man, the matchup that I'm looking forward to, the headlines. Oh, the Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions. You got to remember, it was just 3 years ago
Yeah.
that the LA Rams did not want Jared Goff and made the trade for Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford then wins a Super Bowl. Now the Lions are the hot team in the NFC. They're one of the hottest teams in the NFC. And now you have these two quarterbacks going against each other. I think it's amazing. I think deep down, everyone wants the Lions to win something. They've been so bad. They've been so bad over the last 20 years. Now they wanted to. Did they win their division? They won their division. The LA Rams are starting to get hot. I mean, that's such an intriguing matchup. Lots of implications. But like you guys, I think my Super Bowl prediction is this is pretty boring, guys. Baltimore and San Francisco. Let's just be honest. Two great offenses, two great defenses. These teams are hot. But we all know when Baltimore played San Francisco, Baltimore spanked them. These two teams they're primed right now. Last segment, guys, what we're going to do, this is for our listeners. Well, this is another competition. We love competition between the four of us. We like to have fun. We love each other. We argue, we banter, and we also love competing. What we did is we did a little best ball playoff. I wouldn't call it draft, lineup. And with this competition, what we're doing is we're each setting a lineup. We're each setting a lineup using only the playoff teams
And it's in best ball format where basically you can't trade players, you can't remove them. Once you set your roster, that's the roster you have for the entire playoff. Meaning, if you pick a guy on a team and his team is out in the first round, tough luck. You don't have that player anymore.
Mhm.
So, what we're doing is we're only playing one quarterback, two running backs, three receivers, and a tight end. So if you draft a tight end and that tight end gets injured and out or injured or loses in week one, the wild card weekend, you don't have a tight end for the rest of the playoff. Now, here's the caveat. We can only have one player per
Mhm.
team. Now, all of us think the San Francisco 49ers are going to go to the Super Bowl. So if it wasn't one player per team, we would probably be wise to pick Brock Purdy, CMC, Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle. Well, you can only pick one player per team. Shed, what's your team? And who's who's one or two players you want to highlight from your team?
Well, yeah, so this is interesting, right? I went back and forth on this. So I'm going to go with a sleeper, Rashee Rice. And the reason why I'm going with
Go
him.
through your whole roster first. Go through your
Okay,
whole roster.
yeah. So quarterback was Josh Allen. Running back was McCaffrey. Running back was Kyron Williams, right? CD and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Rashee Rice, and then Njoku. So Rashee Rice was kind of sleeper just because I'm not a fan of Miami making it any further than round one. And then I feel
Wow,
like
why is that?
because they're playing in Kansas City, it's cold, right? Seeing the game against Buffalo, I wasn't a fan of Tua. I think Tua's going to get exposed. The Chiefs' defense is good, so I'm banking on that. Rashee Rice will get more opportunities, and his last couple of games, they've been feeding him, right? I mean, he's been getting a lot of reception. So then, by me taking him, I decided not to go with Travis Kelce because I had a Kansas City player, and I went with Njoku. So now, after hearing Olu thinking that the Texans are going to shock the world, it makes me nervous about Njoku because if Njoku doesn't go on, that's a one and done for him there, right? So, but maybe with Elijah Moore out, maybe with Amari Cooper not fully healthy, maybe everything goes to Njoku. Njoku can have a big game that can kind of carry me along. But those are kind of like my two like different or surprise picks.
Yeah, no, good stuff. Olu, what's your team? And then
Okay,
highlight
so my
one or
team,
two players.
I have Lamar, okay, quarterback, CMC, because we both projected both of them to go to the Super Bowl. So yes, they both have first round buys. So if they get the first round buys and they come in and they do what they usually do, what they do, I'm actually torn between Lamar and Josh Allen, but I'll stick with Lamar. So he comes in, does what he does, they go get to the Super Bowl, boom, we got these numbers. James Cook. So James Cook is another one where they've been using him a lot. This is playoff football. We all know playoff football is ground and pound. Just Cook is prime to go. So I have him from the Buffalo. I don't trust Stefan Diggs. He's not been doing well this year.
No,
I don't
yeah,
trust him in the playoffs to do well either. So no. So I'm going with James Cook. And worst case scenario, if what's it called? Lamar and the Ravens don't make it to the Super Bowl, then guess what? It's probably Buffalo Bills. So I got James Cook. So then we go to CD Lamb. CD Lamb has been phenomenal. Okay, let's just put it this way. If the Cowboys are to make it far in the playoffs, it will be off of CD Lamb's hands. Okay? That Prescott, I guess. But CD Lamb. So that's why I'm going with CD Lamb. And then with the shock the world factor, none of you guys have this, but you know me. I always try to go with the wildcat. And my wildcat in this contest is Nico Collins. And the event that has shocked the world, it has to come to CJ and Nico Collins. So that's why I'm having Nico Collins up there because he gets his numbers. Then we go to Amari St. Brown. Amari St. Brown is Mr. The picture of Mr. Consistent. And if you look in his social media, he already has a hair dyed blue. So if 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 what's it called? San Francisco doesn't go to the playoff, I'm suspecting Detroit will be the runner up because I do expect them handily beat the Rams. Now we go to Njoku. Njoku has been doing well with Elijah Moore out for the season. Amari Cooper, we don't know how he's doing, if he's playing or not. We don't know what the status of his injury is. So the only person they have is Njoku. Perhaps they fall off. If they fall off and lose the first game, then okay, I could do it without my tight end. It's not like the other tight ends would go off either that I'm playing against. So, I'm okay with that. Or if they do make it past the first round and potentially go deep in the playoff run, then I have Njoku. So that's how I set mine.
Yeah, I just want to go back really quick. Shed, I'm surprised. Oh, your roster's solid. Shed, I'm
Thank you.
surprised you predict Baltimore to go to the Super Bowl, yet you did not pick anyone from Baltimore on your team.
Yeah, I was back and forth between Allen and Lamar. Yeah.
You should have picked likely at tight end.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Yeah, which I was back and forth on that. That was kind of like my last minute
Yeah.
decision. But I guess what I'm seeing with, because Josh Allen, he just produces even in the last game. Even in the last regular season game, he was bad, but he had like 30 fantasy points. So he puts up points. So yeah. Probably going likely.
And I think from Olu's team, I mean, Nico Collins, obviously, if the Texans are going to win, Nico Collins is going to eat. We saw that in Week 18. Will's team, we don't have him to highlight anybody, so I'll just go through it. Will, he did submit a roster. So Will is playing Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey, Kyron Williams, CeeDee Lamb, Zay Flowers, Amari Cooper, and Travis Kelce. Now, my roster, I do believe the Baltimore Ravens and San Francisco 49ers will be in the Super Bowl. So I have Lamar Jackson and Christian McCaffrey. Nothing exciting. We all have Christian McCaffrey. So I think that's going to be a wash across the board. I also have James Cook. So alongside Olu, I'm also playing James Cook. But in my receivers, I'm the only one to play Tyreek Hill. We all have CeeDee Lamb, so that's also going to be a wash. I also have Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I'm playing Travis Kelce. My method to this was I just wanted to play the best players available at each position. And even if Miami's one and done, I feel confident that Tyreek Hill is going to get me enough points to maybe be enough for 2 games for one player. Because when he goes off, he goes off. And if Miami's going to win, it's going to be because Tyreek Hill is getting points.
So can I? Oh, sorry. I waited. Sorry.
Yeah. And so I do believe also the reason I picked Travis Kelce is because I believe as far as tight ends go, Sam Laporta, he's coming into the playoffs injured. Travis Kelce, if Kansas City's going to win, Travis Kelce is going to have to be productive. So I believe in Travis Kelce in the playoffs. So yeah, that's really some things about my roster. I mean, the things to note across the whole thing is Will's the only one to play Zay Flowers and Amari Cooper. We all played Christian McCaffrey. We all played CeeDee Lamb. And Lamar split evenly with Josh Allen for quarterback. So those are the only 2 quarterbacks across the 4 of us. And the only 2 tight ends across the 4 of us are Njoku and Kelce. So it should be relatively even or close as we see this one play out. Is there any overall thoughts before we wrap this episode up, guys?
Well, I'll just say quickly for the record, your team and my team were very similar. They were identical except for Kyron versus James Cook. So I said, okay, like if it comes down to that,
me and you?
Yeah, me and you, yeah. Because initially, at first, I had Lamar.
Initially.
Yes. Initially, and then I saw that I was like, okay, I got to change it up. So this is kind of a reach here, to kind of see what's happening, just so that points can be different. But yeah, that's a good point you made though. Olu, you want to say something?
Yeah. So I was gonna say, with Tyreek Hill, the last time they played the Chiefs, he did not fare well at all.
No, he did not. He did not.
Yeah, Snead gave him the business. So
yeah,
I don't see how that would be much different, especially he's more hurt than he was the last time. And yeah, I just don't see. And then they're going to be Kansas City. But again, they might change the game plan. And also, Jalen Waddle is not even in the lineup as well. So that frees up more people to cover him. So that's why I was like, I thought against Tyreek, like, nah.
Yeah,
I just
not
don't
playing
see.
Tyreek Hill. It's so funny because Tyreek Hill was so productive, and I'm the only one to play him in our fantasy our playoff best ball. And it's almost like we don't. It's almost like you don't want to play him, but I look at the talent. I'm like, I gotta play him. Like I'm
Yeah.
cool with it. I'm cool
Yeah,
with
yeah,
taking that gamble.
yeah. I got you.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
cool with taking that gamble. We'll see how this one plays out. During the season, the king of Zamunda came in first. We'll see how the playoffs go. But that is our episode today.
The
We'll be
pressure,
back
the
next week.
pressure, the pressure.
We'll be back next week to recap Wildcard Weekend and to look ahead at the Divisional Weekend. Your co-host, Matt Shedden Olu. Will says see you later. We'll see you next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.